Hi everyone, welcome back to Hair of the Werewolf. I am Lily, and I have the birthday boy here with me.
What's up, guys?
Chase. And today's his birthday, but when this comes out, it'll be past his birthday, but that's okay. But we're celebrating it today, and we're going to try to make it something a little more special, I think. For those of you who've never heard our podcast before, we are a supernatural horror podcast. We like to tell each other scary stories. Always trying to scare each other, but also, more importantly, we're always trying to have a good time, have some drinks, and basically just enjoy each other's company. And hopefully you guys do too. So, today, like I said, it's going to be kind of a special episode. We're going to try it out for the first time today. We will be playing a drinking game along with our stories.
Yeah, well, so we kind of have two sections of the game, don't we?
We do.
So we have a rule sheet, you know, kind of like the ones you're used to with if you play drinking games with like movies where if things happen, you do it. And don't worry, we will post both the rules and what we're doing on our social media the day we post the episode so you guys can follow along if you want to drink with us.
Yes.
So let me list the rules. Oh, so apart from the rules, we also have a specially designed wheel that I made, a spinning wheel for each of our sections that we spin it, and it's a game of chance that if something that it lands on is included in the other person's story, we have to take a shot.
Right. So it's kind of like a game of chance and also based on things that we are going to be talking about. So there's two sets of rules. One is shot taking. So that's the wheel. The wheel is very unforgiving. And the other rules, which kind of happen in between while we're talking, which only require us a sip of beer, which is okay.
So I will explain the rules to you guys. So when our story includes these, you take a sip of your beer.
Oh, yeah. Feel free to play along.
Drinking. So if a story includes slapping, you drink. Any animals at all. A supernatural death. If we talk about orbs, being those terrible orbs appearing in like photos or whatnot. If it features an insane asylum or penitentiary, sanitarium, whatever you're going to call it. And also if something suddenly disappears Batman style, like they saw something and then it was gone. Now we have things that we drink if the narrators do it, that's us. If one of us says fuck, that doesn't count, by the way. But if we say that, take a drink. If one of us loses our place, and we normally cut that out of the episodes if we lose our place, but we're not going to do it today. So
you're going to now see how professional and totally coherent we are.
How terrible we are. If we don't know how to pronounce a name, even if we successfully do it, but if we don't know how to pronounce it, we have to take a drink. If we've been to the country that the story we're talking about takes place in.
Right.
And if it's in the U.S., we're going to say the state. So, because, you know, we've been to the U.S., so we're going to say the state to make it more interesting.
Yeah.
And if one of us asks the other person a question they can't answer it, they have to take a drink. Now, other weird random ones. Yeah, we created a lot of rules because we want to make sure we were drinking today. Other weird rules are if a sound pad falls off the wall, don't worry, we will tell you if that happens, but it tends to scare the crap out of me when it does. If one of our stories was made into a movie, we take a drink. If a ghost TV show investigated it, we take a drink.
Oh, yeah. Which is probably going to be almost every time.
And if a loud car drives by because our house is next to a big road and it bothers us, we also have to take a drink.
Yeah.
So those are the sipping beer, wine, whatever rules for the whole game.
Yes, exactly. So I'm pretty ready about this. I don't know.
So we got to do the wheel then.
So we have to do the wheel, and our wheel actually has a name. So our wheel is two-sided. One that we spin for my story, and one that we spin for Chase's story.
Yep.
And my wheel here, I have it in my hand. It's called We Just Gonna Spin This Wheel. Ouija, get it? Okay.
And it's got seven sections.
7 sections, yeah.
And you should read what they are. So if it lands on it,
I'll read them. So one of them is if it lands on folklore, demon, witches, cryptid, haunted building, ghost, or other. So the point is he'll spin the wheel and it'll land like just pretend folklore. And if my story happens to be folklore, then he has to take a shot. Right? Is that how we did it?
That's how it is.
Cool. And then his wheel is called Take a Spin on a UFO. And his are footage exists, government acknowledged, lights, UFO. So UFO you mean
if someone sees the physical UFO. So lights means you see lights.
Okay.
Physical UFO means someone has actually seen the UFO.
Gotcha. And then creature. Okay, so if you actually see an alien.
There's a creature instead of just like a vessel.
And abduction. Oh, no. Abduction, mass sighting.
No, abduction and mass sighting.
Oh, so abduction and
mass sighting, I guess, if we land on that, we're going to have to kind of establish rules. Like, what does a mass sighting mean? Like, 2 people, or does it have to be 3? Could they not be around each other? We'll figure that out if we land on it.
Okay.
But, so we're going to spin the wheel at the beginning of each of our stories to see if we take a shot.
Yes.
And then at the end, we're going to try to find out if we've actually successfully creeped the other one out. And if we've succeeded, they have to take a shot. And if we failed, we have to take a shot.
We do. Okay.
So I know that sounds complicated, but don't worry. Check out our social media to see the listing of the rules if you want to play along. Otherwise, have fun listening to us getting kind of drunk.
Yeah, this will be the one we're actually very likely going to be drunk on. So
it's my birthday.
It's your birthday. And
that's when I want Jeff Goldblum to jump in and start singing that like in Thor. Birthday.
I was actually thinking Happy Death Day, like her ringtone. It's my birthday. Oh, no, wait. What is it? It's my birthday. Or something.
It's my birthday.
Yeah.
I love that one. All right, so...
cheers.
Today, we decided we needed a celebratory, easy drinking beer because we're going to be doing a lot of it. So today, we're drinking High Life. That's right. The champagne of beers.
Champagne.
So, you gotta go classy. I mean, this has to be an expensive beer. Look, it comes in such a fancy clear bottle.
Yes, it is. It's the champagne. Let's do this.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, I should have grabbed more than one because I have a feeling we're going to burn through these.
Well, they're so easy to drink. I mean, come on. Yeah. And also, there's going to be a lot of rules we're going to be breaking. For sure. Okay, cool. So, I guess I'll start the stories. If everyone is ready, I hope. So, my story for today is La Isla de las Muñecas, the island of the dolls.
See, I'm glad you translated because even though I'm learning Spanish, I'm not that good.
No, for sure. And
I knew island. I was there.
I'll likely just refer it from here on out, Island of the Dolls.
You can do the Spanish. It sounds cool.
Yeah. Okay. So the island itself is located on Xochimilco.
Wait. I have to spin the wheel.
Oh, fucking hell. We forgot.
Oh, no. You cuss. Take a drink.
This is going great already. Oh, my God.
Alrighty. So now I'm going to spin the wheel. Spin that wheel. All right.
After we literally just talked about it, we didn't do it.
Because we're dumb.
Okay.
All right. And go.
What did it land on?
It landed on demons.
Demons.
Does the story have demons?
Arguably, no. So no shot for you.
No shot.
You're looking actually really sad now.
All right.
If it's your birthday, you can spin it second time.
No.
Okay.
It's all right. It's all right.
All right, we're good. All good, though.
We might do a mid-story spin in the future. We might figure it out. Let's see how it's going.
Yeah, we're gonna probably change rules.
All right.
as we like.
So where is this located?
It's in Xochimilco, Mexico.
Well, we've both been to Mexico. Take a drink.
Yay!
Not together yet, but that'll be in the future. But since we've both been there, it counts.
Right. So it's in Mexico. It's just south of Mexico City.
We'll be near there.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to these canals, and I'm going hopefully to the island, but maybe not. We'll see what I do. Okay. So there's just like this entire water system of canals and little islands that were created by the Aztecs. And these islands are actually called chinampas, which are designed to grow crops. They're often referred to as floating gardens, but in reality, they're actually created by intertwining reeds and stakes that are kind of in a lattice fencing form underneath.
Interesting. This sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I think I might have seen pictures of this or something.
Yeah, you probably have.
Or maybe The Idiot Abroad went there or something. I watched that show.
That's a really good show. Yeah. So the vegetation of the water, underwater vegetation and soil gathers, and they start piling on top of it until it actually creates this entire island thing.
Interesting.
And then there's also a complex drainage system that was developed in order to easily create mud buildup, and also for it to replenish the nutrients that the land would require to grow stuff like vegetation and whatnot. And that is really, I don't know, I thought that was really cool. I was like, what the hell? That's pretty badass. So these islands existed at one point purely kind of like a agriculture kind of situation.
Yeah.
But now people use it for other purposes. And in this instance,
So is it like a
to
tourist?
fill with dolls.
Is it like a tourist thing now?
It is very much a tourist area. Yeah, it's encouraged. I mean, people go there all the time. They have these boats that go through the canal every single day, and you can bring your own alcohol. You can bring your own snacks, drinks, whatever. But they're also floating shops or boats or restaurants, if you will, where if you don't bring your own things, you can purchase food and drinks from them. So
That's awesome. It's like, did you bring your shots? Did you bring your flask? No, it's like, don't worry. The liquor boat's on its way.
Freaking Pedro has his tequila for you. And you're like, what's up? Yeah, for real. Like, it's pretty amazing. And I'm certainly going to be doing this at some point in my life. Yeah.
Excited.
For sure. Well, You
lost your place. Have a drink.
I didn't lose my place. Okay, fine. I did, kind of. All right, here we go.
See, it's a tactic now. If I ask you a question, I have a chance to get.
I know, it's terrible. Well, all right. So, like I said, despite of what the purposes the islands once served, they have like multiple purposes, and one of them being the haunted island of dolls. The story begins in 1950s with Don Julian Santana Barrera. Ended up on the island, pre-doll infested, because he was shunned from his community for having extreme religious beliefs, and he was becoming pretty superstitious in a way that I guess was really a problem.
It seems to go hand in hand with being super, like if he has like a extreme religious view. I mean, don't you think superstition kind of can go hand in hand with that?
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Like, just believing in something and you know, all these rules are created in your head, and if you don't follow them...
Exactly.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah. Well, yeah. Unfortunately, this behavior was not taken lightly, and he was basically shunned from his community, so... I don't know if it was kind of both ways, where he was like, no one is really listening, and also people hate me, so he just went to go live on this island by himself. And he did leave a wife and a child behind to live on this island.
So he didn't bring them?
No, he didn't. So he's all alone. Not the most ideal situation, I guess, but at the same time, I guess he removed himself from the area, or maybe forced to, whichever one you want to think.
Yeah, history will write one, but we're not quite sure what actually happened.
He's like, no, I'm on this island by force. Like, yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, like I said, Don Julian lived on the island by himself, and then... One day, he saw a lifeless body of a little girl floating by. He went over to help, but soon realized that she had drowned. Moments later, a little doll floated towards him from the same direction the little girl drifted from. Overcome with grief, Don Julian took the doll and kept it...
You're not going to believe this. A pad just fell off behind you.
Oh my god! Damn it, Pat.
It's the only one you put on your Blink-182 poster and it just falls down. I was like, I thought to myself, there's no way it's happening. All right, drink.
How did it happen? Oh, did we turn down the heater? Oh, we did.
Heater's down.
Oh my god, that scared the crap.
Did not mean to interrupt you. Sorry. It's just it was a drink
it's okay.
moment. So where we left off, you said that a girl's body came by, but also a doll, and it really upset him.
Yes. So the doll that, like I said, was drifting in the exact same direction as the doll, or I'm sorry, as the little girl had drifted from.
And this was just close enough that he can make the obvious assumption it's probably her doll.
Yeah. So it's kind of
It'd
like
be weird
this.
If it wasn't, right?
It would be really weird, coincidental for sure. And I think just because of the entire situation, he was, grief-stricken, and he actually took the doll and hung it on his island to honor her. However, some believe that he was actually doing it more out of protection. So, family and friends who were still in communication with Don Julian said that he was afraid of the little girl's spirit and believed that she haunted the island.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he was terrified, and he ended up having to collect more and more dolls from garbage. He would go looking for them. Sometimes they would come floating to the island anyway, which is really weird.
What's near this island?
There's like a doll factory that's nearby. Like, I have no idea.
A haunted doll factory.
It's just Chucky. Yeah, so there's this, whatever, like more dolls tend to gravitate towards the island maybe. So, yeah, despite all that, reputation did start to grow, for sure, and people actually started bringing dolls from all over, not just Mexico, but the world,
sure,
to contribute to the collection. So he was also receiving them that way, and also for trade of fruit. So the locals would actually go there and be like, here, you want a doll? And then he would give them like produce or whatever.
Oh, that's a weird kind of bartering.
I mean,
get rid of dollars, or I guess pesos in this instance.
Pesos, yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I mean, that's what trade is all about. If he wants something and he can provide something for in exchange, I mean, whatever that may be. So in his case was dolls. So
I'm not going to ask it now because I'm betting you're going to get there, but I do have a question about these dolls coming up since I'm pretty excited. All right. So does your story did you find any more information? Because I don't know how much of this is like newspaper stuff or it's kind of folklore, but is there any more information on who the poor girl was that died? Or is it kind of just like a tale of
It's kind
mystery?
of a tale, and everything that I've tried looking up, and I really did try to find information like, oh, maybe she was buried on the island, although that wouldn't be very effective, maybe, because of the way the island works.
It's like wet mud and stuff.
Right. So maybe, like I was like, maybe they transported her into a proper cemetery or something, and I couldn't find any information. But what I did find is that there's a more like theory, but likely what occurred, statements from friends and family who never saw the little girl either, but have heard it from Don Julian himself, suspect that he may have hallucinated the little girl.
Okay.
So
maybe she was a ghost.
But she was a ghost, right? But like,
it's
not that they don't believe that he saw it, but they believe that what he saw wasn't a physical child.
So it's one of those things where we don't actually know for a fact that there was a girl. It's part of the story, but we're not. Okay, cool.
Right.
Okay, cool. Sweet. All
yeah, exactly. So, no, I think that's really a good idea to clear up, because I think that was it was always in the back of my mind whenever I was reading these articles. And I'm like, no one's talking about this little girl. Like, was she ever identified? And, but it turns out that maybe there was none. Like I said, so he was collecting a lot of dolls on the island for trade and everything. And the reason for this, from accounts and everything, is that he hoped to appease the spirits that he would hear at night calling, "I want my doll." So he would hear something. This worked at first, and it seemed that the spirit or whatever malevolent entity that resided on the island would only settle down as the number of dolls increased. So it would start to, I don't know,
get
almost
wilder.
Yeah, agitated, or like more things would start to occur that were scary, I guess, on the island if he wasn't continuously
providing dolls.
Right, providing,
the
hanging
demon
up dolls.
had a need.
I mean, demon, maybe. So if you think it's a demon, maybe you should take a shot, because this is not considered demon. They're considered spirits, and there's more information onto this as to why they're more unrest souls versus something that never walked the earth.
Well, but I mean, I think at this point we're dealing with the idea that since we don't know if a girl existed, so like let's say a girl existed and this is her spirit, then it's a ghost.
Right.
But if there wasn't a girl and it's a creepy demon that just has like a super doll fetish.
I mean, you know what? Demons do tend to have doll fetishes, but I think it's because it's a way.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Annabelle and stuff. You know what?
We need to add onto yours doll fetish. Demon doll fetishes.
All right. So you know what I'm going to say? Because we don't know if the girl existed, this could potentially be a demon. I'm going to punish myself and I'm going to have a shot.
Okay, take your shot.
So I need to open the bottle now. We didn't talk about what liquor we're drinking. So because I'm K-fancy, I'm not only drinking gin, I'm drinking probably like my second favorite gin, which is Beefeater's. Beefeater. My favorite is Heyman's. I don't buy it too often because it's like the cheapest I can find it is like $28 a bottle. And it's worth it, but I'm cheap. So
yeah, we're both cheap. For sure.
All right, so time for a shot out of my, you can't see it, but my super cute Sonic the Hedgehog shot glass that I got for Christmas from my wife.
You're welcome. Cheers with my beer bottle. There you go. Man, high life. I haven't had that in a minute.
Nice. All right. So let's,
that was your shot.
Super dry. It's been a while since I've had a shot of gin.
It's been a long time since you've drank, really, in general.
Dryness is quite nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Okay, yeah, like you said, could be a demon because of the spirits or like the uneasiness that he seems to feel if he's not providing all these dolls. So, from all this collecting, if his behavior wasn't, I don't know, creepy enough, Don Julian actually built a little house to keep his favorite dolls in, including the original doll.
Like
so it still exists. Yeah, it's a really large room, actually. So it's kind of like a giant... But it's not like a fancy house, or it's more like a shed where it's just wood. Yeah.
Sell it more.
It's actually falling apart. Yeah.
It's kind of like a bucket filled with old water.
It's actually a picture of a house. Just kidding. No, so he has this structure that he built in order to kind of more honor the dolls that he's been collecting.
Sure.
Including the original one, like I said. And yeah. So his absolute favorite doll is called Agustinita. Locals and tourists that had visited the island will often go inside of the little house or shed and bring her offerings or the original doll. So it's either to her or to the original doll in exchange for good fortune, blessings, miracles, superpowers. I don't know.
So like the offerings, like they just like put it under the doll or something?
Right. So like sometimes they'll like trinkets. Oftentimes they're other dolls to like put on there. Yeah, I'm not... Maybe money. Sometimes that seems to happen. Yeah. So I think it's just like if they... Yeah.
So I mean, at some point it's going to get over full. So do you think it's kind of like when people leave tributes at like
religious statues?
Yeah, but like someone has to go clear it away at night. You know, like when people leave like food, right. They're like, you can't leave the food here.
Right.
So maybe the people running the island are getting pretty rich.
I think so. I would say so. Or at the very least have many dolls themselves, because I think that's a common offering.
Interesting.
Yeah, really cool. And other people actually show their form of respect. Instead of offering, they'll change the doll's clothes to keep them nice and fresh.
That's really weird.
It's almost like treating it like it really is a baby, or like, yeah, it kind of freaks me out, but at the same time, I don't know.
This doll done pooped himself.
It was like, well, wait, there was a doll who peed herself all the time.
Oh, yeah, well, that came out when we were kids, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
I don't think I never had one, and I don't know if I ever wanted one because I thought the idea was really fucking gross.
I was so young that... we're the same age, but I was so young I didn't think...
I said the F word.
Drink.
Yeah. I know I could have gotten away with it, but I want...
No, this is the game. So, I remember that doll coming out, but I guess I was at that age where you could show me crazy stuff like that, and I didn't think it was crazy. I was just like, oh, whatever.
Right.
I remember as a kid, though, there was that doll that if you lied it down, it closed its eyes.
A lot of dolls do that.
Yeah, and I think my sister had one, and I always found it creepy because hers didn't work so well. So sometimes when it was sitting up, one of the eyes would be kind of like closed.
It happens,
so
yeah.
it'd have like a creepy closed eye.
I used to have a doll like that too, and they tend to have like hard heads and like softer bodies.
Definitely.
Sometimes soft bodies, sometimes hard bodies too. But yeah, they're not the best, and they work at first from my recollection, and then eventually their eyes start going crazy, and I think that's around the time that you start like leaving the doll.
Yeah.
You're like, I need to move on.
Well, I've never had a fear of dolls in general. That doesn't mean, I mean, a scary doll is going to look scary, but I don't have like a particular fear towards them. But I remember as a kid seeing it with like one eye mostly closed, and the other one kind of lazy, and like it was just going to talk with like a switchblade
It's
accent.
like it didn't want to close its eyes.
It's like, wait till you go to bed.
It's all drunk.
Yeah, not cool. Okay, anyway, keep going. Sorry.
So, creepy doll's eyes. Yeah. So, Don Julian, for 50 years, hung dolls from trees and would string them all along the island. Until 2001, when Don Julian's nephew went to the island to plant some seeds, he found his uncle's body floating in the water in the canal. Coincidentally, in the exact same spot where Don Julian claimed to have found the little girl.
Woof.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really messed up.
It's really effed. And then also, I would say that, like, I think I don't know if it was like an autopsy, because I didn't read a report or anything like that, but a few articles said that he actually had a heart attack. And I don't know what you think about this, but that for some reason makes it creepier for me, because he still ended up either in the area close by or literally where he found the little girl after a heart attack, versus him like committing suicide without that kind of out of your head saying, oh, well, he just wanted to drown where he found her. No, he didn't want to die.
Yeah, this is
And it was a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was 80 years old when he died. So I guess a heart attack isn't really out of the realm either, perhaps. Anyway, so
50 years, damn.
Yeah, so he did this for 50 years. And the story doesn't end there. Don Julian's nephew, Anastasio Velasco, ended up moving to the island afterwards. And he's been a lot more vocal about the strange activities that go on the island. He has said in interviews and just like things that I've read as well, this is a quote actually that I put down, move their heads and whisper to each other.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yep. And he was also said to believe that the little girl still haunts the island. So he acknowledges that there definitely is some little girl ghost thing going on, because he will sometimes hear a little girl's voice at night, and it seems to be always at night.
So this island, like, how big is this? Like, if the nephew's like, I will move here, this is a good choice.
You know, it didn't look massive, to be honest.
I was anticipating
really
it'd be
bad
like
at size.
I was anticipating like, I don't know, 3,000 square feet, like a really big home, but I assume it has to be bigger than that.
It's like I don't know,
a half acre,
maybe. You know, it was really hard to determine.
Have you seen video of it and stuff?
I've seen video, but like they're usually close up and they're by the water, so it's really hard to determine how far back. And a lot of these islands aren't that big.
Okay.
Not like, multiple homes can live on here. No, like maybe one home with like substantial land or something.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, he believes that the little girl definitely is there, so it's been acknowledged multiple times by people. And he also believes that his uncle, Don Julian, actually still is on the island as well. He used to walk with a cane, and so at night, Anastasio says that he can hear his uncle walking with his cane.
Now, if you come give me cane marks in the ground, then I'm a little more interested.
But sometimes, like, these manifestations aren't physical.
No,
They're
I
sounds.
know, but I was going to say, like, a cane sound, like, is that distinctive of a sound? Or could it just be like a clicking or a tapping?
If someone was like walking, I think like, I don't know about you, but I can tell when you're walking. Mm-hmm. You just have a certain pattern or whatever. And like if you visit your uncle often.
Are you calling me fat?
I mean, thank you for reading between the lines, Chase. That's exactly what I'm saying.
You're judging me.
I'm judging you on your walks. But you've said the same thing with me. Like, you can tell when I'm walking. It's just like a sound that you get so familiar with. And especially when it's so distinct, like a cane, and someone maybe has some type of disability.
True.
Yeah.
I'd say both you and your sister have a very similar walk and sound. You kind of have a slight drag at a part of your guys' walk that's the same. It's a lazy walk.
Sexy.
But it's lazy. Like, if you're, like, jogging or whatnot, you don't hear it. But, like, when you guys kind of walk around, you kind of have this, like... I don't give a fuck attitude. So your feet kind of drag a little bit.
Oh my god, that was so awesome.
So just to correct even my own self.
Okay.
I can remember a specific instance where I remember what the cane sounds like, and that was at the beginning of the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when Gene Wilder's doing the fake cane I'm disabled walkout. It had a very specific sound because everything got quiet. Everyone was so quiet. So the sound actually became one of the most dominant parts of the scene. And I remember that sound, and I remember not liking it as a kid. It was something weird about the way the cane hit the ground. I hated the sound. I
mean, it could have been like just... But it was also on concrete, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is an island, and apparently a very wet island.
Maybe it was like a mush. I don't know.
Little splats.
Like 3 distinct mushes, so 2 feet and a cane. I don't know. Maybe I'll bring a cane when I go and just to like try to understand what that sounded like. I mean, I doubt it, but you know.
It's not an experiment worth our time.
It's not really worth my time, but I guess we spent this long talking about it. So, yeah. The cousin is living on the island, and...
I think you said nephew.
Or nephew. Did I say cousin? Woof.
It's not even a rule, but I'm going to make you drink that.
How dare I get the family tree wrong.
It's not even my story, and I corrected you. Take that.
He's my cousin. Okay, no.
Do you love me, cousin?
No. Aside from that stuff, Anastasio has also said that the dolls have been known to move. Sometimes just their eyes, but often it's their entire body. It has been described to be very purposeful and distinct movements. There is also a very specific doll that lives in the little house that I was talking about that will randomly begin to cry, and even though there are no batteries and it is old as hell.
Wait, no, is it like a pull string toy, or is it like a toy that shouldn't be crying and it
like,
cries?
I don't even know it was supposed to cry in the first place. But it would have like a doll cry.
That's terrifying.
Right?
If I walked in there and I picked up, it's like picking up a Lego, but it's crying. You're like, you know what? I'm leaving this island.
What the hell?
And I'm washing my hands.
Ooh, yeah, no, I would burn that Lego. I have no idea. Well, let's go into current days.
So you said 2001 is when he died, right?
In 2001,
so that's not too far ago. That's
no
19 to 20 years ago, depending on what time of year he died.
Yeah, and so I guess like what I mean is past 2010, perhaps.
Oh, so super recent.
More recent, yeah. Like
unless you're a Zoomer, that's still probably an eternity ago.
Yeah, like, oh my god, that's when I was born. Just kidding. I promise I won't do that voice again. Okay, so more hauntings. In general, many locals and even tourists have claimed to feel uneasy when they're traveling through the canals. It's often described as having bad energy because there have been a lot of blood spilled there from the Mexican Revolution.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
The island has to be pretty big because no one fights in a war.
Not the island, but the entire canal system.
Oh, okay.
So that entire area.
I stand corrected. My bad.
Right. So hundreds and hundreds of dead bodies have been thrown in the canals during the war. And the canals, at some point when they were being cleaned, they found hundreds of bones. Thousands, I would assume, if there were hundreds of bodies. And there is no doubt that many people believe there are a lot of restless spirits inhabiting the area and even possibly possessing the dolls as well. So they find these dolls and freak people out.
Well, I think we may have talked about this on a previous episode, and if we haven't, you and me talked about it in our own way. Like, there seems to be a common theme that things like dolls, which visual representations of people, tend to be common manifestation points for spirits and stuff, right? Like,
yeah,
they
for
don't
some
like
reason,
if you have a pet rock, they're not going to go into it, but they seem to like humanoid things. So, I mean, if you have an island full of humanoid dolls, you're just begging for whatever, be it a demon, which I took my shot for, a ghost, a spirit, seriously, even termites, they're going to want to be in it. So
yeah, I mean, speaking of that, well, I'll talk about that later.
Oh, wow, I didn't know I was going to predict something creepy. I'm very curious now.
Yeah, so it definitely... Like we had talked about with the other dolls, like the Elsa doll and I forgot the name of the
but I don't buy the Elsa doll.
No, I know,
and if you're listening now and you don't know the Elsa doll, that I think was episode 2.
I think so. Yeah.
And we talk about a haunted Elsa from Frozen doll.
But we talk about another doll too, which that one, I don't know, that one seemed legit.
It's worth listening to check out episode 2. Anyway.
Yeah.
And continue.
And continue. Yeah, so definitely could be unrest spirits or demon that have found refuge in the dolls and scare the hell out of people. There is another island along the canals that they have a yearly performance held there of La Llorona.
Ah, sweet. We also did that a couple episodes ago. Don't remember which one it was, but you can check it out.
I can never remember. This version of this version of the tale interprets the story from the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire. I know I told you like different interpretations of what, and this is like the one that they perform, which would have been like around the early 1500s when the Spanish tried to take over, or I guess successfully, really.
Yeah, they didn't lose.
I don't think they lost. Yeah, so unfortunately, that is the scene that they're depicting, or not unfortunately. Unfortunately, in history terms, but cool that they're putting on a really cool play. And anyway, so because it's around that time, the Aztecs, there is a large pyramid that they have structured, and there's a scene where many women climb the pyramid, and it's been reported that there is a little girl seen often during the scene climbing the pyramid. However, there's no little girls in the play, at least not in this scene. And when everyone is coming back down, no one ever sees a little girl come back down either. So she kind of disappears in the mix of everything.
A little creepy.
Yeah, so there's like either a lot of little girl ghosts going on, or it's the same one kind of all over the place, not just on the Island of the Dolls. So it's an interesting idea that she might be haunting the island, but she might be just everywhere.
So I do have a quick question, if it's okay.
No, for sure. I'm good.
Usually when I'm hearing these stories, not always, it's a little girl that is a ghost.
Yeah.
Not as often little boys, though they do 100% exist in my stories.
Oh, there are.
So is it just that I have, is it that my exposure is skewed? Or in your experience, because you've seen and read and researched way more than me, would you say it's disproportionately female? Or would you say it's just what I've been exposed to is disproportionate?
It's really hard to say because I think I've heard just as many, perhaps, like little boy ghosts being seen or little children. Okay. And I think in these kind of stories, I wish I had an answer for that, but I feel, and maybe this is just like what I've heard people tell me,
sure,
is that people tend to think little girl ghosts are really creepy. And so I don't know if it's just like the way the entity wants to represent itself. Like you said, if it's a demon, is it going to pick a little boy or a little girl? This is like really weird theories that I'm literally just on the fly coming up with, but just based on like what people have told me, what they're like, there's something about a little girl ghost that really gets me. And I'm like, okay, so that just would either popularize some of the stories more versus other ones.
Yeah. Well, so first off, I promise I'm not asking these questions to try to slip you up on a question. I'm actually feeling...
No, I still want to keep the conversation thing going.
I've got my shot inquisitiveness going on. I would say that I do find little girl ghosts creepier, and I'm not quite sure why.
Interesting.
There's a part of me that assumes it's because, particularly in media and literature and whatnot, they're so much more used to victimizing women and girls pretty hard. And I'm not saying that boys don't get victimized, but I think I just see it like if you see a little girl and she's a ghost, my mind just immediately starts worrying about all the poor things she probably had to deal with, I guess. I
think you're right. Maybe, I mean, I don't want to say one is more victimized than the other, but because I think kids in general might be victimized equally.
Of course.
But I think like
any kid that something bad happens is totally a victim.
I guess what I mean is, but like maybe like little girls tend to have more stories or of suffering in like seclusion or something. I'm not sure, but either way, it just, I guess it definitely triggers something in people where they find them a lot more creepier.
Right.
So I don't know.
Okay. All right. I'm still holding on to my question from the beginning, but I'm going to save it for the end.
Okay. So there is another story, and this one I totally stole from, so I'm giving credit obviously, to the BuzzFeed Unsolved Mysteries Supernatural. Or Unsolved Supernatural.
Oh, Ryan and Shane?
Ryan and Shane, who are my favorite.
They're the best.
Yeah, I love just seeing that.
I hate saying the word BuzzFeed because it's such a bad word, but like they might be the only good thing that's ever come out of that site.
Yeah, I despite of who's giving them funding, I think that's just how I picture it because they made the show on their own. Like it's just or they made it their own. I don't know whose idea it was, but I mean like
and if you guys out there don't know what it is, just use BuzzFeed Unsolved Supernatural to find it, but don't ever think of BuzzFeed beyond your search because it's so unrelated to the website, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. You'll find it, I think it's on
they're all on YouTube.
Prime.
They're all on YouTube, but they're also I think on I think you're right. I think they're
Amazon
on Amazon
Prime, so you can like check them out that way. Anyway, there was definitely an investigation or a visitation. I don't know how far they went into the investigation, if I recall correctly. They went there, yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to call it as that's a ghost TV show. Investigates, we have to.
Oh, that's right.
It's not called Ghost Blank, Ghost Hunters, but I'm counting that because it's a TV show about ghost hunting.
It's about ghost hunting, investigation.
Take that drink. Boom. All right.
Okay. Well, they go there, and everything about it was kind of creepy, of course, because they're at night and they have a guide, so that's nice as well. But in general, they don't really capture anything except one thing. As Ryan was commenting, because he had brought a mini doll to place as I guess as an offering or just out of respect in that little house that I was talking about where the other two dolls, like his special doll and also his the original doll, inhabit. So as he was walking up to them, he all of a sudden everyone heard this, a loud bang come from the wall towards the ceiling. Yeah, it totally freaked everyone out. And so much so I don't even think he actually put the doll down. Like he just left immediately. It was just like a really weird sound that happened. It was cool. But aside from that, and you were talking about like termites, but that just like sprung into my head during that episode. I would say the most terrifying thing about it is the spiders that inhabit the island.
All right,
infested. I tell you.
Okay, so I was thinking about when you were first talking about when you were talking about an island before you said Island of the Dolls, but when I heard Isla and I knew island, I was like, oh, is this Spider Island? And then when you said dolls, I'm like, oh no, wait. But you didn't say Aranya, so I knew it wasn't spiders. But at the same time, I remember a Spider Island, so maybe at a previous day when I was super drunk, we watched that episode because I don't remember the dolls. I remember the spiders. Because
it was so, they actually took a moment in that show or that episode to show you all the spiders that they were encountering and how they were freaking out because, the spider webs can be created, especially depending on the spider, but I'm guessing like especially these in just a matter of an hour, if that, to do it in their pathway. So they were walking into them and
I don't even have arachnophobia, but on being stuck on an island that's infested with spiders.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to have a phobia of something to like, I'm done with this.
Right. I don't know if I would say I have a phobia. I don't like them. I prefer them not on me. But yeah, like if they're starting to
You might rather me deal with them, but I don't think you're particularly scared of spiders over just anything.
I've had to kill them before. I would say I'm like rotophobia, whatever that word is.
Yeah, you definitely. And you don't seem to be bothered by mice.
No, mice don't bother me at all.
Obviously, they're not an insect, but I'm
not
thinking of the vermin that bothers people in houses.
Yeah, I'm not going to go catch one and lick it or anything, but I'm not afraid of mice, especially since they tend to harbor a lot of diseases. But yeah.
I have discovered when we were living in Italy that I have I don't know if irrational is the right term because I think it's rational.
Oh, yeah.
I have a strong fear of scorpions.
You do.
When it came running at me in the living room, and I was like...
Freaking Italy, man. I don't even know what that country's up
and we had to look at it online. I was like, what is a scorpion doing here? And then we found out, okay, scorpions are in Italy. Like
they're like, they have house scorpions. Yeah, so that's... at first we're like, how could there be a scorpion? And then it turns out like, oh, it's just like a spider.
Well, we have scorpions here in New Mexico, but I don't hear stories of scorpions in houses. And usually we also have desert tarantulas, but I also don't regularly hear stories about
centipedes, though.
It's mostly centipedes and spiders and roaches here.
Right. Good old centipedes. Yeah, so over there, they have spiders, and they have plenty, and they're large. Not the ones when I described to you, like I saw the biggest spider, and you look at it, and you're like, no, it's not. No, these are actually giant spiders. So if that, honestly, it would be the only reason to deter me from ever going, but I might actually still go anyway, during the day, for sure. So that was kind of their experience. There's a lot more to it, of course, and I highly recommend watching it. And now we're going to go into another investigative group.
Oh, wait.
So there's
which
two.
One is this one? Is this televised or is this just a group?
It is televised.
All right, then we have to drink
again. We have to drink.
Does this one have the word ghost in it, though?
It does, actually. It's the first word.
It's like ghosties.
It is Ghost Adventures.
Oh, I know that
Your
one.
favorite. They interviewed... So I actually only grabbed stories of interviews, really.
Sure.
Of it more than anything. They ended up interviewing a boat rower about his recent experience. And I say recent, I mean from when the show was aired, which I think was in 2014.
Okay.
So the boat rower said that when he was on the canal, out of nowhere, he started hearing drums in the distance. As the drums grew louder, he began to sweat and get very anxious and basically thought he was going to have a heart attack. And even though he did end up losing control of his body. But after a while, like, he was able to compose himself, I suppose, enough to come home. And while he was in the state, for 5 days, he was in a confused state that he could not speak or understand what other people were saying. Sounds like a stroke, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's... it's been so many years since I took the class where we discussed all the different kinds of brain damages, but there's like Broca's aphasia and Wernicke's aphasia. They have to do with strokes in certain parts of the brain that like you think you're trying to, like, one of them is where you think of a door and you're thinking you're saying the word door, but what's actually coming out. Yeah. But then there's other ones where you hear people are talking to you normally, but all you're hearing is gibberish. Like, I don't remember the specifics.
There's also the sight where you're seeing something and you can't quite make it out. Things like that, yeah.
And some of them are permanent and some of them do go away or get at least slightly better over time, depending on the situation. This sounds a lot like that.
It does actually sound like it. You're right. So normally I think because of how you would probably feel, you would go to a doctor. And I'm not sure if he actually did at some point. But he does say that his family also did end up sending him or taking him to a shaman where a ceremony was performed. Basically an exorcism, because during this performance or ceremony, sorry, I don't want to say performance, like it was a show, be disrespectful. But anyway, the shaman did his thing and actually ended up taking over whatever it was that was possessing the rower. And he started to feel those effects as well. Was the rower okay afterwards, though? After the until the ceremony was over, the entity or whatever had left both their bodies, and he was fine, perfectly fine, like nothing had ever happened. So I guess there's something to say to that, right? Too, because either there's a damn good coincidence that his stroke, quote unquote, like symptoms just magically went away around the same time, or something happened that it was really a spirit. It really depends on what you want to think. Well, we've seen some of those. Heck, it doesn't matter if it's a Christian exorcism, if it's a voodoo procedure. Procedure is a terrible term to use there. A voodoo ritual. Or this, they're not known for being subtle or calming. They're usually pretty intense. They're very daunting. Yeah, it's super intense. So to make an assumption that if someone is dealing with an issue, I'm not necessarily saying a mental brain damage issue, but they're dealing with an issue. A traumatic experience may be one of the things that can trigger him get you out of a funk, It's kind of like it's kind of like when you see in movies, and I am not saying movies are medically accurate, but you see someone panicking and then someone slaps them and whatnot and knocks them out of it. Maybe that's what's happening. Maybe you just slap. I'm not condoning slapping. Although we're mentioning slapping. Have a drink. Unintentional slapping. All right. Well. By the way, if we're missing any of our rules and you're listening, you best email us and let us know. Yeah, you can put it on. Call us out on our social media when we post these rules. Be like, maybe, or give us ideas. You're like, hey, you guys actually do this a lot more, or things we need to stop doing. Whatever. Be like, you guys should stop doing this, and how about you start drinking as punishment? Like, I'm apparently Mr. Interrupty Face, so maybe I need to start drinking a lot when I turn into Mr. Interrupty Face. I welcome it though, because I feel like we're just having a conversation, but who knows? Anyway, so there is also another story that Ghost Adventures people. Yeah. So the team actually ends up going to a medium in Mexico City to discuss the investigation that they're about to do. And I think the purpose was to get some sort of guidance if there was any new information that they could use during their investigation. Well, the psychic actually does end up telling them that Don Julian has been communicating with her and says that when they go onto the island that they need to cheers a glass of pulque for him. What's pulque? So pulque is an ancient alcoholic drink created by the Aztecs. So to start with P or B? P. Pulque. Right. Okay, so it sounded way too close to purque, which is people from Albuquerque. Purque. He's like 505. I'm like, Don Julian, what? Anyone who cheers 505, I don't care where you are in the world, you're one of us. You're one of us. Or is it pulque, which is like an Aztec drink? Okay. Yeah, you're right. It does actually sound exactly like that. See, I'm not used to it because you actually have an immaculate accent. Well, not compared to me, your accent is immaculate. And so when I hear stuff, I'm like, that sounds like other things, but it's because my ears aren't attuned to actually hearing it correctly. Right. Yeah, no, totally. So I am going to actually talk about the drink a little bit because it has a really cool... It's the right day for it, too. It really is, and I feel like, hey, this... Drink. I'm having a good time today, guys. I am too. Yes. Let's hope I am cognizant for my story. Oh my god, that's going to be a really fun episode, or fun segment. So the pulque, like I said, it's an ancient alcoholic drink. It's been around for at least 1,000 years. It's made from fermented sap, also called aguamiel, which is, literal translation is honey water. So I guess like mead, but if it's sap from a tree as opposed to being created by a bee. Right. So it was the sap, or once it's fermented, it turns into this pulque. and it's white and has a viscous quality. And it also, I guess, has been described as sour yeast. I don't know.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm all about that.
I know it could be weird, but I'm definitely more than happy to try it.
I'm imagining like a thick sour Baileys, and that's exciting to me, actually.
Yeah, maybe. So this drink has, like I said, some pretty cool origin stories. Mostly, okay, so one involves the goddess Mayawel, and this goddess of the which is the goddess of the maguey, which is the agave plant. Did that make sense?
The goddess of the maguey. So maguey is an agave plant.
Yes, maguey. Okay. No, sorry. So Mayawel is the goddess of maguey, of the plant.
Okay.
So the goddess of the agave plant.
Gotcha.
Is Mayawel. And so it was thought that the sap collected from the plant was her blood. Other deities such as the Senson.
Can't pronounce it. Take a drink.
Totochlin. Oh God, why? Help me. Okay, here we go. I did not do my usual phonetic thing on the side.
Can I see it? I want to see the name.
Here it is. It's on where my finger is.
Right.
It starts with a C. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't even get to that. Because it's hard because it's pronounced in either, like, I guess you're talking about Aztecs, but like Mayan, Aztec, they have such weird pronunciations.
It's not Spanish.
Yeah, no, of course not.
Yeah. So let me just see if I can say it. It's Senson Totochtin, which is actually not just one deity. It's actually 400 divine rabbits who frequently gather to have a drinking party. And they are associated with it by representing the drink's effects. And they are also the children of Mayawel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And this is probably my favorite story, origin story of the drink. According to history, pulque was discovered by Tlacuache, which is an opossum, who used his human-like hands to dig into the plant and extract the naturally fermented juices, and he became the first drunk.
The first drunk creature was an opossum. I like it.
God. So Tlacuache was thought to have also set the course of rivers, which oftentimes were linear, except when he was drunk. That's when the rivers became windy, and that's why some rivers are windy, because he was drunk when he was making them. These windy rivers often lead the path from cantina to cantina. So like bar to bar.
Bar hopping.
Yeah, so the reason why they're windy is because he was always trying to get another drink at another place.
And he's stumbling about.
Exactly. And so that almost concludes my Ghost Adventures stuff, except there was one scene that they actually do capture the doll laughing.
Really?
Yeah, they're inside that little room, and it's really fucking hilarious watching.
So if we assume it's
F-word.
drink. If we assume it wasn't staged, that's creepy.
Right.
But it's a show with the word ghost in the name, so I'm gonna trust it as far as I can throw a boulder.
Sure. Okay. So today, people who navigate the canals often say they feel that they're being lured to the island. Like something's compelling them to get. Yeah. Well, more like it's compelling them. So they almost feel like they can't control it. The rower I talked about earlier who was possessed is not an isolated incident. In fact, there's a lot of stories from rowers that have described the feeling of threatening, like a threatening feeling, panic, and even have some sort of initial symptom that many people would describe as the beginning stages of possession. Conversely, there are people that believe that the island and the canals give off a really good energy. They believe that the land is reacting to the individual.
Oh, so if you're so let me get this right.
Okay.
If they're feeling uncomfortable and feeling spiritual stuff, it's the land saying you're a bad person, fuck you.
Sort of.
Drink. I'm out. Okay, I got a little bit. I got a little bit.
There you go. So kind of yes and no. It's almost like if you go, like you said, if you go to the canals with fear or anger in your heart, then that will certainly be amplified.
Okay.
Or if you're good-hearted and things like that, that will be amplified too. So it just really, it's almost like it's sensitive to you and it affects you back.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty cool. Fortunately, if people who are brave enough to go on the island, there are still rowers who are willing to take tourists there, but very few, if any, are willing to go on there with you. So they'll like take you there, but they're not going to get on the island.
For real.
Yeah, so it seems like also people are allowed to spend the night there. I'm not sure how I'm willing to do that, but
I don't know if it's because I think it's haunted. I just don't know if I want to spend the night on a strange island filled with spiders.
Especially since you can't like, it's not on the ground spiders, you know? So it's like they're on the trees and everything.
It's a spider issue.
Definitely a spider situation issue. Yeah, so obviously because of that reason, many paranormal investigators take the opportunity to freely roam the island in hopes to capture some supernatural activity. So that concludes my story.
So now we have another segment that we didn't talk about with the game that we're going to try to introduce. And I think we might do this part every single episode. And that is, at the end of our story, we're going to ask whether or not the other person is willing to visit.
Okay.
So you have to ask, and so she tried to scare me. So if I'm too scared to visit, I have to take a shot.
Yes.
If she's too scared to visit, no, if I'm willing, it means it didn't scare me, and she has to take a shot.
Right.
So,
are you willing to go on the Isla de las Muñecas?
100%.
Yay!
Happily, I will totally see all the dolls and everything. I do have rules, though. I will not stay overnight because of the spiders.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to touch any of the dolls.
And I think it might be, I don't know how expensive it would be to like stay there.
Totally.
Maybe there's like this whole package thing, but
I will admit, I won't touch any of the dolls because there is an inkling fear in me that the dolls, I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but I have this weird feeling that if they were possessed, touching them is bad. So take that as you will. I'm totally willing to visit, but I'm not going to touch anything.
Okay. That's fair.
So you decide whether or not that means you take a shot or I take a shot.
So I would say, since you are willing to go there, that's the only question that we had. I'm not saying like you have to like rub your body against these dolls or anything. So I think you're in the clear.
So you need to take your shot,
okay.
And I'm going to ask my question that I was saving the whole time because you didn't touch on it.
Oh, okay. And if I don't have the answer, then I drink.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So she's doing a shot, and to give you guys, she is drinking Sailor Jerry.
Sailor. And
it's probably your number 2. No, your number 3 rum. Number 3 rum.
For sure.
Behind our homies, Cruisin' and Pussers.
Cheers to myself. Chases out of beer. And bottoms up.
All right, so here's my question, and I want to preface it with some stuff so that I make sure it's known that I'm not being rude or anything.
Okay.
So a guy who separates himself from his wife and his kid to go to an island and starts collecting dolls and claims to have seen a dead girl, there's a lot of potential subtext there. I am embarrassed to admit this is where my brain went, and I'd like to assume he was a good person. I want to, but I can't deny my brain went there. Is there anyone who has the theory that maybe he at some point killed a girl and this was like his guilt routine? Like this is how he was dealing with the guilt of something that he had done that was horrible in his past? Because it reeks of some sort of obsessive behavior towards dealing with something from his own life or his own past. And I'd like to think he didn't. I want to believe that he didn't, and he was just...
Sure.
But is this something that people talk about, or am I crazy for even thinking
I don't think you're crazy. I think it kind of crossed my mind initially as well. Not like while I was doing research in this story. Sure. I think the more I read, I was like, I think he might have hallucinated the situation is probably my biggest theory, or the one that I tend to believe. But you're right. I don't know. And the fact that there is no body or any evidence, it could have been, unfortunately, something that he hallucinated, but not because it didn't happen. It just might not have happened there.
Yeah.
And if he did do something bad, then perhaps it's just like it drove him insane and like ended up on this island. So you're right. I don't know. However, that is not something that I read anywhere as a theory. So I think maybe
I feel guilty that my brain immediately went there.
I mean, you don't know. You didn't read this, you didn't do the research, and I did. And from what I understand, it doesn't seem like people hated him or anything.
So he wasn't, like, known for being, like, a creepo or
just
scary.
a little eccentric on his religious beliefs. And, yeah.
And usually you don't find people who are extreme on religious beliefs as being those known to, like, murder or kill people.
I mean, yeah. I mean, not in this story, at least. As far as I know,
I'm gonna
not a
correct
theory.
that because I guess wars and stuff aside, I mean, like, in a society, if you have a guy who's particularly religious,
if you have like an individual versus masses.
I don't mean a country that or a mass group of people, because otherwise you're gonna roll your eyes and be like, Chase, most like military conflicts had something to do with religion. Yeah. And you're right, and I accept that. I meant an individual.
Well, religion and money probably first, but yeah, power.
Well, and the Force. I've seen Star Wars.
Duh, Chase, and Lord of the Rings.
They didn't fight over the Force in that.
No, but the power of the ring kind of thing. Whatever.
I thought it was over that bread that you could, like, eat for, like, 10 weeks.
That Sam ate. Just kidding.
No, it was totally thrown off the mountain.
I know.
He, like, didn't even pick it up to eat it. I mean, it can't be that dirty.
I mean, it is on the side of a rock of, like, the infested orcs.
I know, but they walk barefoot everywhere. Like, you don't think they'd care.
Just because you wear barefoot doesn't mean you eat the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I know they don't lick their feet or anything, but I don't know. All right, so I'm totally out of my beer because not only did we have to take drinks, but I kept drinking it because it's High Life and it's got the beer content.
It's got nutrients, like water.
It's nothing like a 8% IPA.
Sure.
So we need to grab another drink. We will be right back because I have a story for you guys for round 2.
Can't wait. See you guys in a bit.
All right. We are back.
Yes, and popping bottles, as you've heard. So we just got our drinks, and obviously, like we had talked about, we totally went through our first High Life bottle, and now we're on the second.
And in a perfect coincidence.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle of our break, when we were getting new drinks, because it's my birthday, my homie George, his wonderful wife, Sonia, and their adorable kid, little G.
Little guy.
Gable, they showed up on our front, and so we did a socially distanced shot to celebrate my birthday. It was the best thing ever. So if you guys are listening, we love you to death.
Definitely.
And he hooked me up with a ridiculously cool hat.
Yeah, from Woody's Hoodies.
Woody's Hoodies.
Which we've advertised, guys. Honestly, cool stuff.
Cool stuff.
So let's go into our stories.
It's my turn.
Yes.
Which means that we gotta switch.
Oh, we gotta spin the wheel. God, we're terrible at this game.
We gotta switch the wheel around.
If anyone's keeping track, we've had 2 shots and 1 beer. So
one beer each.
Yeah. Not trying to keep tally here, but yeah, I think.
So make sure to check out my cool little wheel that I 3D printed on our website. All right, so
let me spin, right? It's my turn?
Yes, make sure you hold the base with one hand and then spin it with the other.
I think I am familiar with the technology. Okay.
It's not very well weighted.
So mine says UFO, which is obviously going to be
mine 100% has physical UFOs in it to absolutely take a shot.
Oh, dear. Okay, let's do this.
I know it seems weird, but I've had plenty of stories where it's just lights, or even the one where one of my personal stories, there was no UFO in it.
Or like the angel hair, the episode. Yeah, that's not either.
Aliens doesn't always mean UFO, and in this case,
right.
It's totally a UFO story. Okay. So she's on for her shot number 2.
And I'm also taking a shot from my custom-made Hair of the Werewolf shot glass.
Yeah.
We have no merch yet, obviously.
No, we don't have merch. We've just kind of been gifting it to each other because we're really happy about our podcast. That's a Shutterfly. By the way, I don't recommend getting shots from Shutterfly. Everything else from Shutterfly is great, but the shots not so much.
Yeah, it seems like the print is more clear on the inside than the outside.
And it's kind of really foggy and everything. I mean, they're not a bad company, just don't get shot glass.
It's just frosted glass and it's weird. Anyway, absolutely. I love it.
All right,
cheers.
Shots up.
Cheers to your...
Cheers. Cheers to fears.
Cheers to fears. Ooh. Wowza. Okay, we're good. Okay, let's do this.
So it's been a while, fellow listeners, but it's time for an end of episode encounter. I'm going to call my story Fly the Friendly Skies of New Mexico.
What? Oh my God.
So my first story is super recent. It happened just a few days ago. Yeah.
What?
February 21st,
Don't scare me.
2021.
Okay.
So what's that, like 2 weeks ago?
I don't know what day it is.
It was on a Sunday for sure. So
sure.
I think it's about 2 weeks ago-ish. A little less than that. It's like between 1 and 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Because there's only 28 days in February. All right. So American Airlines commercial flight 2292 was flying from Cincinnati to Phoenix. While it was over northeastern New Mexico at an altitude of 36,000 feet, something interesting happened. The pilot got on his radio to contact air traffic control.
Okay, this is the best part. The pilot. Okay.
Now, here's what's interesting. He got on to talk to air traffic control, and there's apparently weirdos out there who listen to air traffic control transmissions. They intercept them.
Oh.
And some people caught this one, and the reason they were able to notice it amongst all the I'm assuming hundreds, if not thousands, of air traffic control things was the pilots were so excited, and I don't mean excited in a happy way.
Sure.
Their voices were elevated, and they were
Like, what's going on? Like, is there
and
some
so
miscommunication?
Exactly. They were able to isolate it. And at first, the air traffic control did not acknowledge that this was real, but they eventually did acknowledge that this was real. And you can listen to the recording. I'll post a link to it. I will post a link to it.
Okay.
Anyway, so once again, at an altitude of 36,000 feet above the northeastern New Mexico state, here is what got broadcast from Flight 2292.
Okay.
Quote, "We just had something go over the top of us. I hate to say this, looked like a long cylindrical object. It almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing.
Oh.
Moving really fast that went right over top of us." End quote.
So it must have been coming from the direction of his viewpoint,
It's
perhaps.
hard to say because he wasn't too specific as direction or anything. I'm assuming this guy was told not to talk to the press, whatever.
Okay.
Air traffic controllers responded that they did not see any object on their radar scopes. Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque, quote, "We have no knowledge of any object," end quote. And the FBI claims that they are, quote, "aware," end quote, of the incident. They would not confirm or deny anything happened.
That's interesting.
So what actually happened? For any of you that have done any significant amount of flying, like me, I think it would be fair to say that you aren't used to seeing things that close to your plane while you're in the air. Mm-hmm. You usually see just endless clouds or the ground, which is also endless, just stretching on below. I think the closest thing I ever saw to my plane was another plane, but it was still really far away, like miles away. However, you could still tell it was a plane. It was so obviously a plane. You could see it was super in the distance. It was either like way below or way above us. I think I've seen a couple planes.
So you're talking about just like planes in general?
Yeah, you look out the window and you see another commercial and you can tell it's really freaking far away.
But you can also see just, there's like this sense of like a type of reflection too. Like you see the outline, you see light reflecting out.
You know
obviously
instantly
a plane. Right.
This is a plane.
Yeah.
So I think it has to do with that, as long as you're not flying through stormy weather, which I've also done, you can't see crap. But when you're that high, there's so much light, visual clarity is super high. Like, you can kind of tell. So if it's not something that's like 36,000 feet away from you, it comes out pretty obvious what it is. So the assumption is they could see pretty well. These are pilots. This is what they do for a living, right? So with that said, he actually said in the transmission, "we." Was not just him. It was the flight crew, which is two people.
Yeah.
They saw something. So they saw something, and if they say it, there's good reason to believe they actually saw something, and they know what other planes look like.
Obviously, his co-pilot would have been there verifying and saying, like, call this in. There's no real hiding this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that said, that's actually a good point. He said "we," implying both pilots did witness something. So I want to get rid of most arguments against his credibility. I don't want to talk about crazy stuff that could be considered slander or libel against him. You know, it's so easy for people to say horrible things about pilots, like, oh my God, they're sleeping or they're drinking. There is no indication of that. This guy could very well be an amazing pilot, and we should just assume that until we hear otherwise.
I mean, people are still alive, right? So
yeah, exactly.
He's good.
Exactly. And he said we. And like, even when you have situations where one pilot's asleep, the other one wouldn't be. But anyway, so we're just going to go with he actually saw something.
Yeah.
What could it have been? Air traffic control would have a record of all commercial flights in the area and would have notified the pilot of this. So, like, if they knew about something, they obviously would have let them know, but they didn't. They also would have made sure that, I mean, it's their job. Planes aren't going to get that close to each other. I mean, the only time planes are that close is when they're landing, right? It means it's probably not a commercial or civilian plane because they have to deal with air traffic control. So could it be the military? Air traffic control wouldn't have all the information on military flights, but they'd usually have enough. The military should also know all the commercial flight paths and would probably not be conducting flights in the area. But I also want to take a moment to talk about the fact that what the pilot saw was a cylindrical object, not a plane.
I was waiting for you to get back to that one.
but yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, the visibility is really good when you're that high outside of really crappy weather.
Except when the sun's right in your face and you're like, God help me.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And we know what that's like. We've all looked out and you can't see crap. But I mean, he knows what planes look like. He could tell if it was plane shaped, right?
I mean, he might know what it looks like. Yeah.
And he very clearly stated it seems maybe it's cylindrical, looks like a missile or whatnot.
Sure. And
he said it also went over the top of the plane. So that means if it went over the top of the plane, it means it was going faster than the plane. Mm-hmm. And planes are going, when I looked it up, about 460 miles an hour. This plane would have been going-ish, roughly.
Okay.
So that's fast. I mean, obviously it's not a freaking bird. And birds aren't cylindrical. I know this, but I'm trying to think of all the really dumb explanations people are going to throw out there. It was a plane. I mean, it was a bird.
Now you're talking like a believer. Not a skeptic.
No, but I think it's really important to acknowledge that this was going fast.
For sure. So whether government maybe, or like something that we don't...
Yeah, exactly. And I don't have specifics, but when I've reread through this, it sounds like it passed close over the plane. This wasn't at a distance.
Sure.
Pretty close. So I can't guarantee this. I'd love to talk to the pilot, but I think it kind of gets rid of ideas of like parallax and perspective issues if it's very close to the plane.
Okay.
So if it isn't plane-shaped, what is it? It could honestly still be the military. It could be a missile just like the pilot suggested, or they could be testing out some crazy new plane or drone that is shaped weird. However, they shouldn't be testing any of these in commercial flight paths. The military will know where the commercial flight paths are.
Definitely. I mean, they tend to be common patterns, so it's not... Yeah, okay.
It's known, right? And as far as I know, I don't think there's a military base in northeastern New Mexico. I mean, if you go into Utah, I hate to say Area 51 because we're talking about aliens. That sounds so cliche. But I mean, and there's plenty of military bases in New Mexico, and there's plenty in Colorado and everything. I don't think there's anything there because northeastern New Mexico is what, near Farmington?
Well, I mean, sure, there might not be like a base or something there, but like, doesn't mean that that's not where they're flying their equipment or whatever.
That's fair to say. So I should probably put my foot in my mouth because that's that's fair to say. So ignore that. That's not a good criticism.
I don't know either. So,
but if this is a known commercial flight path area, you'd assume at least the military wouldn't try to be testing stuff there.
You're right. You're right. I wouldn't assume that.
Unless.
Oh, help me.
Something went wrong. So, if it were a new flying device or a new missile or some bizarre test, top secret test, who's to say that it was working perfectly?
Okay.
It may have been way off course. If it's a drone, you're like, oh, maybe they're testing some new device and it got off course and whatnot. But if it's a missile, can I just stop and say, what the hell? Because if it was a missile... I can assume the military wouldn't want to admit a major F-up. I'm saying F-up because...
I did the same thing earlier. Yeah. Sure, yeah.
Because if they're testing a missile they're not testing it in a commercial flight area, but if it malfunctioned and got into a commercial flight area, they're not going to admit this. This isn't going to come out to the public.
I mean,
that they had a missile almost hitting a commercial airliner.
I mean, I don't even like admitting when I F up. So right? Definitely not an organization is supposed to be as organized as the military, of course.
So I think at this point, they don't want to admit a malfunction, right? But this also took place on a Sunday. And it is kind of a famously known fact that the military doesn't do major operations, exercises and stuff on a Sunday.
That's what they want you to know.
There are exceptions.
Just kidding.
And we can also assume if it's top secret stuff, it's going to have its own schedule, right? Yes, yeah. I admit that. But even still, there's no reason it should be doing any of this stuff in a commercial flight path.
Yeah, that would have been definitely the part that I feel like is the most damning.
Yeah.
Is that why would it be on a well-known air traffic? I mean, come on. Even people buy houses specifically in areas that is known for flight paths that don't buy houses there because of that reason. Even we know that. Do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that this is really weird to me because the skeptic in me wants to just jump out and be like, oh, well, it's probably a military aircraft. And there's still a part of me that pretty strongly believes that. But if it was, it just sounds like if it goes near a commercial flight, something really bad happened. It malfunctioned severely. So let's just say it's a military thing.
Right.
If it was, something bad happened. And this is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to fly on a plane knowing that the military might be stupid enough to launch cruise missiles near us. Even if it's an unarmed cruise missile, like it doesn't have explosives on it.
I like how we have completely abandoned the fact that it could be a UFO.
We haven't gotten there yet, though.
Oh, sorry.
Don't jump the gun on me. You know how I am.
My heart is so like
my UFO stuff
right
comes
now.
At the end, boo. You know this.
I'm always going to be about it.
So literally the next line on my notes was... And then there's the final option.
Sure.
A UFO. Thanks for jumping the gun. You know what? I'm making you drink for that.
Yeah, okay.
It's not a rule, but...
Fair. It was basically an interruption, an uncalled for one. Sorry.
Yeah. So let's talk about it possibly being a UFO.
Okay.
So I'm tickled by the idea that this was a random pilot who saw this. Just a random dude. Not some crazy transient on the ground or a guy cooking rat on his radiator in the countryside. This was a professional pilot flying a plane who saw it, and he saw it in an unexpected area, which is, thousands of feet in the air. He didn't see it just on the ground like some random light.
Okay.
So if we think about this guy, imagine his scenario. This is what he does. He sees something, and that's significant for two reasons. Reason one, he obviously doesn't think it's a plane. You see something, you're like, it's either a plane or what the fuck? Oh, shit, drinking.
Finally.
And number two, he is confident enough in what he saw that he needed to report it to air traffic control.
Yeah.
It's not like when you or me might be like, we see a random flash in our house and we're like, oh, I wonder if that was a computer monitor or something like this. And we just kind of look at each other.
Which we have seen.
But yeah, exactly. We just the other night, but I mean, like, we kind of look at each other like, did you see that? Like, kind of easy. This guy gets on with air traffic control. This is going to be recorded. He knows this is like his reputation online. He's like, I have to talk about this.
And, the fact that he had to, feel the need to report it, that's a safety issue as well. It's like, listen, like, this is happening.
Small potatoes.
No, absolutely not. And I applaud him. He's obviously a good pilot. He's diligent. He's not what you were trying to allude that he might be crazy or drunk.
No, I was saying, I was trying to avoid.
Not allude. Allude that other people might.
I want to give confidence to professionals because I think that kind of thought process where people immediately want to discredit.
No, you're right. I'm
sorry. I always want to assume people should be given full credit.
Yeah, exactly. I just chose the wrong word. Not the first time or the last, people. But yeah, no, you're right. So go on.
No,
I didn't mean to interrupt.
All right, so let's talk. He saw this cylindrical object in the air, and it's weird.
Yeah.
And I don't. Once again, all the stories I went to, and there's a million places that covered this. This guy, the pilot or his co-pilot, they haven't been interviewed in a place that I found yet. So I want more information. I want to know how long they saw this. I want to know if other people in the plane saw it. And I don't have any of that information yet. I want to talk about this because it had hit so many news stories, which was pretty exciting to me. And whenever I see UFO and New Mexico in the same headline, I'm just I'm all
about it because I need to keep myself aware. being someone who's actually afraid of these things,
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to know where my UFOs are because I need to like try.
Gotta keep them in their place.
I need to triangulate their location so that I can avoid that shit. Yeah.
But when I was reading this story, and one of the news articles I read actually agreed with me, they were going the same direction, so I kind of went with this news article, like we were like homies, same page. Is that it should be noted that this is quite similar to the Pentagon UFO videos. Now, if you don't know what those are, this isn't some super crazy tinfoil hat thing. Last year, 2020, during quarantine, the Pentagon officially released 3 videos. 3 videos where they claim they do not know what is shown in the video. They don't allude to what they think it is or anything like that, but they have 3 videos that are all from jet fighters. And they don't know what is seen in them. And if you haven't seen them, you can see them all on YouTube. They're great. I'm going to talk about them right now.
Cool. Yes.
So the first video was detected by fighter jets in 2004. It was released in 2020. But the first one was now 17 years ago, but could have been 16 once again, depending on the time of year.
Yeah.
These fighter jets launched from the aircraft carrier, the USS Nimitz, off the coast of Southern California. They were sent to investigate radar readings implying a possible target. Fighter pilot commander David Fravor, maybe Favor.
Drink.
I got a drink.
You made me drink in a language that I do not even
The guy
speak.
deserves to have his name pronounced correctly.
Fair.
And I can't do it.
You must
and
be
I
punished.
apologize. He was one of the pilots, and he witnessed with his own eyes, and that's important, saying the own eyes, what he described as a 40-foot-long white oval, similar to a Tic Tac, you know?
I remember
delicious
that.
little minties. And then another pilot sent to investigate at the same time, Lieutenant Commander Chad Underwood, he got video of this object. However, he said he never saw it with his own eyes. So he captured video with his jet, whereas the first guy, David Fravor, he saw it with his own eyes. Now, this is interesting because we actually have government video footage and eyewitness testimony from the same event of something weird. They say Tic Tac, cylinder. I'm going to go with those as pretty similar. I know a Tic Tac's kind of capsule shaped and got rounded edges. I think a lot of people, if they see something that's kind of rounded edged or cylinder, which should have sharp edges at either end of it. One is like a circle that's extruded along a long line, whereas a capsule or a Tic Tac will have kind of rounded edges. Look pretty similar, right?
Right. Cylinder. I think cylinder is actually a really good. You know what's funny? I've actually described buildings that are like cylinder, but I think I was trying to, or not just buildings, but like any kind of scenario. I'm like, it was cylinder shape because I wanted you to understand it wasn't a circle, or I wanted to understand that it was 3D, and cylinder would have captured that. And cylinder does not mean that they have sharp edges.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I think that there's a similarity in the descriptions here, which I think some people, particularly super skeptics, might roll their eyes. But I'm like, I've had to describe stuff. I've been a witness to car accidents before, and when the police are asking me for my story, I realize that sometimes I'm at a loss for descriptive words. Yeah. And so sometimes very basic things like a cylinder, I think, will encompass a couple of similar shaped objects.
I would
without
probably
it being very
say cylinder,
specific.
but Tic Tac probably would have been the best description if you're talking about like rounded edges.
But to me, Tic Tacs are a lot shorter, whereas this guy said 40 feet long.
Woof.
And that, I mean, the Tic Tacs aren't super long. They're a lot smaller. They're closer to an oval, if you ask me.
So what would be that long? I don't know. But yeah.
No, exactly. So I'm just saying there's some ambiguity here. But, so that was the first video.
Okay.
And then there were 2 other videos released in 2014 and 2015, respectively, from jets that were launched from the USS Theodore Roosevelt. But this was on the East Coast, not the West Coast this time. These videos show another unidentified object, which appears to be pill-shaped, or you could say tic-tac-shaped.
Sure. Or sprinkle.
Or
that's longer.
Oh, like a Jimmy?
See? Those are long.
Everyone laughs at me because I call them Jimmies, but my dad's from the Midwest, and I think that's what they call them out there.
What do we call them here?
Sprinkles.
What are you talking about?
We call them sprinkles.
Oh, the same thing.
So Jimmy, I think, is specifically a chocolate sprinkle. And I've even bought packages that said Jimmys, and I just grew up calling them that because my dad's from the Midwest, but everyone's like, what's a Jimmy?
Got it.
So anyway, in these 2 videos, they also captured a weird object. One of them, the object looks a little more ambiguous in its shape. It's not super obvious, but in the second one, it's way more capsule-like, and it's moving super fast. You can hear the pilot's reactions in the video. They're confused and stunned at the speed and maneuverability of the object, and they're also kind of laughing. They're seeing it kind of like, you see like a hunter.
This. Yes, I love
like a hunter seeing like a crazy bird, like, oh my God, what's that? That's what you're seeing. And it's pretty cool because you appreciate that they don't know what's going on. They're not scared. I'm not scared looking at the video either, but it's interesting and it is crazy.
I would also say that their excitement is also a form of maybe not panic, but like this
coping mechanism,
intense like adrenaline rush, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
just like witnessing something that is not supposed to be there. Yeah. They are involved in the scenario in which, you know what I mean, like this government procedure, whatever flight thing that they're going on. But like my point is that I would not expect anything less from someone in the military to react this way, because I think it's incredibly like sound almost to be like, I'm seeing this.
I think it's really healthy.
And no one else is like, able to tell me otherwise / you know what I'm saying?
Well, we have so many friends who've served in the military, either back in the war in Afghanistan and Iraq or are serving now, and we know them so well. And I think when I see these videos, I'm like, this is absolutely accurate. Like it's good. Like it makes sense. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
But so these objects, particularly in the third video, it moves and changes directions really fast. And
so we're still talking about the military, not the...
We're still talking military. We're not going back. We haven't gone back to the original that I'm talking about.
Okay, just because when military. I said I...
Okay. No, but these videos, professional pilots who've analyzed these videos do agree the movements they're seeing on the video they're not congruent with the kinds of jets and fighters that are used by the military today.
Cool.
Suggesting that if it is a craft, it's either a non-common or non-standard human craft, experimental craft or whatnot, or it's something else. Either way, I know if you've seen these videos, you'll agree with me that Tom DeLonge is totally salivating.
But of course.
At the thought of these videos. And
he is eating the Tic Tacs.
And if you don't know who Tom DeLonge is, look it up. You'll have a good time. So the fact that the government released these videos in 2020 and they acknowledge they don't know what's going on in the videos is a super intriguing thing. But it also gave the opportunity for a lot of people to come up with alternative ideas for what they could be. And I want to talk about those for a second because, you know, they're worth the time. So, wrong page.
Lose your space.
I lost my space. Take a drink.
I see you shuffling with those papers over there.
All right, so let's talk about explanations for these sightings. We're going to get back to the original sighting in a minute, but for these sightings, just so that we can talk about them, because I don't want to sound like I'm just jumping hey, it's a UFO bandwagon. Sure. All right, so one is that it was a software malfunction or artifact, because these jets and their video recorders and everything are based on they are software, right? Not based on, they are software. So if it is a malfunction, that wouldn't explain the eyewitness account from the first one where he saw it with his own eyes. Mm-hmm. But it also gets a little confusing because the jets were sent out because on the aircraft carrier, they got a radar blip. So if the aircraft carrier is getting a radar blip and then they send out the jets, that would suggest that both of these, the aircraft carrier and the jets, are having software malfunctions. Two different independent jets are having software malfunctions to detect this, unless it's one thing that's causing the same blip on all of them, which is possible, but it seems unlikely that a software malfunction is affecting multiple devices at once. Okay. And there was the eyewitness account. So that's something. Right. I feel like you've got something interesting to say.
No, I don't actually. I just think it's bullshit because I think the whole...
I think it's a shit explanation too.
Yeah, I just every time you try to explain it, and I understand it because this is exactly how the technology works. It almost feels like sometimes like when an explanation is provided for UFO sightings, they're like, I'm going to tell you how technology works. And I'm like, like, no, and I agree. But at the same time, I'm like, but then what explains the sighting? You know what I mean?
agree.
Like, you know, you didn't explain anything. You just taught me something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think it's a bullshit explanation because if it was one device having an issue, could you say software? 100%. I agree with you. Mm-hmm. And I know how buggy software can be. I get it.
No,
I've done
for sure.
programming. I know it. But having multiple devices doing it, particularly in different areas because the jets were flying away, it makes it weird. Mm-hmm. Number 2, they say human observational illusion, things like parallax or the illusion of speed for a normal object. So the jets are moving fast and maybe they saw something like a bird or a civilian aircraft that wasn't big enough to be reported to like
a private jet or something.
No, not even that big.
Because it would have been super high
I'm going to
up.
say something more like probably, I think they mean like a paraglider or something.
But wasn't it
like
36,000 feet?
No. That was the original story. We're talking about this just off the coast of California.
You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
So it does explain a lot, but it gets confusing when we're talking about the radar detections from the aircraft carrier because it isn't common for radar to detect single birds. Giant flights of birds, sure. But a single thing, radar is not going to really pick up a paraglider that often. We've gotten really good with radar these days. I don't really think that's an issue.
Well, they set like measurements and like parameters,
exactly. And
right?
Speed.
Like
you can detect speed from radar from you detect when it's receiving those points.
Sure.
So the radar would suggest it's moving fast, but a bird won't be. We also have unmanned aerial objects that would be large enough for radar detection, but not something tracked by air traffic control or military. So what do we mean by this? We mean other countries, China, Russia, whatnot. And this actually is probably the most credible non-UFO explanation. So if we take retired Admiral Gary Roughhead, who formerly served as the chief of the Naval Observations, he did note that developing unmanned autonomous aircraft was a strong priority for the U.S. government, but also China and Russia.
Okay.
So could this be them testing crazy stuff to try to spy on us? I actually think this is possible.
Okay, so you think like a really crazy drone situation? Like something?
Yes,
okay.
something like that. So it's big enough that the radar's going to pick it up. It could be fast. Other people see it and they don't know what it is.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
Maybe.
It's
pretty big for a drone, I think.
I agree with you. I'm not saying this is the answer, but I think it's something. This is the only explanation I saw that wasn't UFO that I was okay with.
Yeah.
And I'm a skeptic. So when I say I'm okay with this one, I'm saying I'm okay with it because if someone could prove to me this is 100% a drone from like China or Russia, I would buy it. I wouldn't question if someone gave me a good amount of evidence for it.
Okay.
That said, there's a good chance it's Iron Man. We all saw the movie.
I mean, obviously. I saw the documentary. Tell me.
I saw the documentary, too. All right. So, with all that, I want to go back to the fact that the government released this information in 2000, these videos. And that actually really excites me.
How long was it after, again, like from the sighting?
The first one was 2004. And so that was 16 years after the first sighting, but also the release also includes stuff from 2014 and 15, so that would have been 6 and 5 years.
Get reminded there. Okay.
When they released it, and they didn't have to release it, there was no requirement that they release it. They did acknowledge they don't know what the hell is in the camera. They don't know.
Cool.
And the government has really smart people working for it, and it's
really smart.
It's so easy for people to say, "Oh, the government's full of idiots." It's not. The government has. I mean. In these facilities that are handling this stuff, they have smart people. So if they don't know what it is and they release it saying they don't know what it is, they know what people are gonna think.
Well, how it's gonna affect,
exactly
their entire operation.
And I think that's something that we need to take into consideration as being super important. So if we relate this, well, okay, first I want to say that for those of you that don't know, there's some sort of rule or whatnot that within a few months' time the U.S. government's supposed to release a bunch of top secret information. I don't know the specifics, but I'm waiting when it happens. If it happens, we'll talk about it then. I don't want to waste time talking about this now because I don't know the specifics of that. We'll get to that though.
Yeah, so my understanding, and I don't know a lot about it either because you know how I am. I like knowing about it, but I'm also scared, so I like kind of peek through.
Sure.
But yeah, it's supposed to come soon, so hopefully we can make an episode out of it. Who knows?
It might be a whole bunch of nothing.
Well, maybe there'll be just another Tic Tac in the sky.
I'm still remembering when Obama was being interviewed by some guy. I don't think it was Colbert. They asked him, said, "Have you looked into the UFO sighting stuff?" He said, "Yes, I looked into it. I put an inquiry when I was president." They said, "What'd you find out?" He said, I can't say. And I'm like,
Bam.
that doesn't mean anything. But at the same time, it tickled my funny bone. So...
Oh, Obama.
But let's go back to the whole point of my story, which is the sighting above New Mexico. Sorry for the detour, but I think it's interesting because I want to relate it to other stuff that we've seen. An unidentified, fast-moving capsule cylinder. Could this have been a UFO above New Mexico?
Yes.
I am going to say, as a skeptic, it actually is possible.
Unidentified for sure.
It's an unidentified object. Now I'm not saying it is a UFO.
You mean like alien?
No. But I'm saying I'm not saying it's aliens. I'm saying, but there's enough confusion as to what it is that I'm 100% willing to accept that with enough evidence, if someone was able to say this is a UFO, I would be open to accepting it. Not saying it's an alien, but I'm saying that I'm interested enough.
I love this.
that I'm willing. I will not discredit it as an explanation.
Sure. Okay. I'm like, I don't know. No one can see me right now, but I'm like writhing. I'm just so happy that Chase is not dismissing.
So I'm mostly intrigued because of the similarity to the Tic Tac videos.
Yeah.
Those ones, I think the most credible UFO evidence I've ever seen is that stuff, only because the government released it and they don't have an explanation. And almost every attempt for a reasonable explanation does not satisfy me.
Okay.
So
did you lose your place?
No,
I
was rereading it. So if I had something to say at the end of this, it's I really want to talk to people who are on this flight to see if anyone else saw it.
That would be
I just want more details.
Yeah.
But that's about all I have, though. So where I'm at is there's some weird stuff seen. There is no compelling evidence that it wasn't a UFO, but the idea that it was a failed military experiment or military cruise missile are very possible. And if they are, that's actually scarier to me because it means the military fucked up. Oh, drink.
Right. Hey. Good.
So that's where I'm at that. Either the military made a huge mistake or there's a possibility something bizarre has been seen.
Okay. As someone who's predisposed to being terrified of aliens, I would argue that the military F-up is a little more terrifying because it's like, get your shit together. Like that was a close call to a plane, one of which I tend to ride often.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like in general. So please stop. Keep your shit off on base. Like, we're not allowed on base and you shouldn't be allowed out is my rule.
Agreed.
Just like keep your shit out there.
So with that, I think the question is, since this isn't a place we can visit, we can't visit 36,000 feet above,
Of course.
The bigger question is, are you scared it might be aliens?
Yes.
Then take a shot.
No! Okay, I'm actually a little buzzed, but we'll do it anyway.
So you should take a shot.
Okay.
Because that's the perfect way to end my end of episode encounter.
Counter. I had to, join in on that because I'm about to take a shot. Okay. As I close the bottle, we must end the episode.
And I don't know if you've seen, so if you've looked at the picture of our wheel we put online, one of the sections is red.
Yes.
And the reason I did that was at the end of the episode.
You haven't even told me why you did that.
Was at the end of the episode. If you haven't, the idea is that at the end of the episode, you can spin it, and if it lands in the red, you have to take a shot. Doesn't matter what it is. If it lands in the red, you take a shot.
So I would have taken a shot anyway.
No. We have to spin it again.
Oh, son of a bitch. Okay.
So now I'm spinning it.
Oh, so you do it. Okay. Ooh.
It didn't. I'm safe from a shot.
And there's no mass sighting. So that's the one that you landed on.
Yeah, no mass sighting.
Anyway.
So anyway, now you spin it and see if you land on red.
Oh, jeez. Okay, here we go, people. Pray for me. Mass sighting as well.
So no reds. So
no red.
End of episode shot. Not happening today. Maybe
but I'm still
time.
Taking a shot. So
you still take your shot from your last one.
How about you cheers me?
So we are actually curious to see if you guys really enjoyed our game, but most importantly, we're curious to see if you guys have rules or ideas for things that we do during the game that you think we should be drinking during. We haven't quite established if we're going to be doing this game at the beginning of every month or when we're going to be doing it.
I think I want to, but at the same time, Maybe it's special occasions. Who knows?
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
But if you guys have neat rule ideas, or if you're like, man, Chase or Lily does this too much and we want to drink during it, you got to let us know. And you should totally drop us a line at hotwpodcast@gmail.com. You can also contact us through our Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. As always, we post episodes every Saturday, and you can find us on all standard podcast platforms. We want to thank all of you for joining us today. If, like us, you are imbibing and joining us in our drinking games, cheers, have another, and I hope you continue to have a great night. If you are listening to us on your way to work or being a productive member of society, good on you. Sorry you couldn't join us, but I hope your day is awesome.
And also, if you happen to be hearing this hungover, remember, the best cure for a hangover
is fear.
Bye.
Bye.
I had to spill my drink.
You dork.